So by now, I'm sure you've all seen the headlines. Chuck E. Cheese opens arcade just for adults. Yes, because business is not booming for Chuck E. Cheese, welcome to the new spin-off location, Chuck's Arcade, located all across the United States. Now you might be wondering, Sully, what on earth is Chuck's Arcade? And that's a really good question. I'm so glad you asked that. Well, according to their website, chucksarcade.fun, I wonder why they couldn't get the .com URL. Chuck's Arcade is the spot where the Chuck E. Cheese vibe gets a fresh spin. It's part of the family, but all about solid gameplay with some old favorites and the newest games on deck. If you remember chasing tickets for those little plastic prizes or digging the animatronic band back in the day, you'll feel right at home here. It's where the classics meet the new school players. Wait, they brought back the animatronics? Oh my god, it worked! My videos, the incessant spamming of corporate emails, it finally worked! They brought back the animatronics! We did it, Reddit! So upon seeing that, I knew I had to go visit my nearest Chuck's Arcade to pay my respects to my favorite animatronic characters. Let's just check where the nearest Chuck's Arcade is, and oh, fantastic, it's all the way in Connecticut. In all seriousness, between making videos here and on the real Sully G, I unfortunately don't have the time to drive across the country to go visit some old animatronics. Welcome to Connecticut. Today we are visiting the Trumbull Mall to visit one of 10 Chuck's Arcade locations in the United States, and boy am I excited. And after the long drive across many state borders, we finally made it to Fun Spot Arcade? What the fuck? I drove all the way to Connecticut, a state I have no business being in, and I'm not even graced with the presence of a real Chuck's Arcade. What gives? All right, to explain what the heck is happening here, we have to rewind a little bit. So Chuck's Arcade has been marketed as a brand new concept, something that news outlets and clickbait YouTubers have just been running with. And I know what you might be saying, hey Sully, isn't that what you're doing right now? And shut up. But would you believe me if I told you that Chuck's Arcade has actually been around for much, much longer? That's right, Chuck E. Cheese has actually been discreetly testing this concept in malls across the United States since September of 2024, operating under the name Fun Spot Arcade. Now back then, Chuck E. Cheese's CEO, David McKillop, said of the concept, "At Fun Spot at the Trumbull Mall, we're bringing the newest games and the freshest experience to create a vibrant atmosphere for all ages." So at Fun Spot, you can find games like skee ball, basketball, or Luigi's Mansion Arcade. But now, at the new and improved Chuck's Arcade, you can now find games such as skee ball, basketball, and Luigi's Mansion Arcade. Oh yeah, but also now they've just thrown in exactly 5 vintage arcade cabinets into each location and now branded it as a retro gaming experience. What was the purpose of this exercise? So ultimately, these Fun Spot arcades operated for about 10 months, at which point Chuck E. Cheese corporate decided to stop trying to hide that this was just a Chuck E. Cheese spinoff, but rather embrace it. But our company's already losing millions of dollars because nobody's coming to Chuck E. Cheese anymore. How are we gonna convince people to come here? I'll tell you how. Nostalgia bait. That's right, this isn't your regular old kid-friendly Chuck E. Cheese. No, this arcade's for adults only. Your kids can wait in the hot car. And look at that logo. Ooh, got that classic Pizza Time theater vibe. Retro games? Now we're talking. And bringing back the animatronics? Shut up and take my money. So certainly business is booming. Right? Okay, so maybe this concept hasn't quite caught on yet, but hey, at least we got back our animatronics, you know? I mean, that's at least worth the drive, right? So let's see how our old friends are holding up. What have they done to you? Okay, so there is a lot to break down here. So first of all, there are not animatronics, there are animatronic singular. But can we even call this an animatronic at this point? So to the best of my knowledge, there is very little actual animatronic left under those cosmetics. From certain angles, you can see that the mechanics in the head, specifically the mouth lever, are still there, but her arms are very strangely positioned in a way that the original animatronic could not move. So am I saying they just ripped the cosmetics off an animatronic and slapped them on an old mannequin for nostalgia's sake? Yes. In fairness, it is possible that the original animatronic is still under there, but they bent the robot armature in a way to create this pose, which honestly seems worse. I understand that animatronics are complicated and expensive to upkeep, but if you are fully leaning into the nostalgia factor and saying that only 10 places in all of the United States have these elusive animatronics, at least give us the pleasure of watching them perform. And for once, you commenters can't say, oh, Sully, stop complaining, this is a place for kids. No, this is a place for adults now, so now I am allowed to complain about my hyperfixation on animatronic robots, thank you very much. Okay, let's just forget about the animatronics for a second. How is the rest of the experience? Does it take me back to my childhood? Does it harken back to the golden days of Pizza Time Theater? No, it does not. This tiny room is so devoid of life and personality that it is honestly depressing. It feels like literally any other arcade you would find at any shopping mall in the United States. They have removed the entire charm of Chuck E. Cheese and slapped on some retro logos to get people in the door. Hell, this one hasn't even been properly rebranded into a Chuck's Arcade, despite the website proudly claiming it as one of 10 Chuck's Arcades in the United States. Besides having Helen Henny's corpse at the entrance, there is not a single piece of signage anywhere in the location that references Chuck E. Cheese, Chuck's Arcade, or any other part of the franchise. And how's the food? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, there's no food in these arcades either. They took the two things Chuck E. Cheese was known for, a giant singing rat and some mid-pizza, and they got rid of both of them. Great job. But honestly, maybe because this location is still a Fun Spot arcade, it just doesn't exude the same charm as a true Chuck's Arcade. But unfortunately, if I wanted to experience a true Chuck's Arcade, I would have to travel all the way to New Hampshire, another trip that I do not have the time. Welcome to New Hampshire, everyone. We're at Pheasant Lane Mall this time, hopefully checking out a real Chuck's Arcade for once. And yeah, baby, there it is. I cannot wait to see what animatronic this location has at the end. Where's the animatronic? All right, I'm rereading their press release right now from the launch of Chuck's Arcade in June, and they state, and I quote, adding to the experience, each arcade is overseen by an animatronic character such as Chuck E. Cheese or one of the other characters from Munch's Make-Believe Band. Historic figures from the brand's past, now standing watch as a nostalgic nod rather than performing. I genuinely have no idea how the store that never got a proper rebrand was able to obtain an animatronic, yet this one was not. Instead, in the place where the animatronic should be, they have a kiosk where you can pay $10 to play exactly 3 games. This is why we cannot have nice things. So this Chuck's Arcade doesn't have an animatronic. The first Chuck's Arcade wasn't even a Chuck's Arcade, so to get the true Chuck's Arcade experience, I'd have to drive to the middle of butt. Okay, so there's actually another Chuck's Arcade like half an hour east of this one, so I guess we'll just go there. Welcome to Salem, New Hampshire, and more specifically, the mall at Rockingham Park. And I swear to Jesus, if this location doesn't have an animatronic. All right, false alarm, Pasquale P. Pie Plate is here. You're safe this time, Jesus. Poor Pasquale has suffered the same unusual fate as Helen Henny, being posed into a lifeless corpse at the entrance of this place, waving to passerbys. If there were any passerbys. Just like the other 2 locations I visited, not a single person was seen enjoying any of their wide variety of games they had to offer. I was able to speak to the lone employee they have off camera, and we spoke a bit about the franchise. She said that from what she could see, people seem to really like the arcade. To which I said, oh, so you're doing good business. And she responded, well, she said the biggest complaint they're facing is the price of the games. The example she pointed out is the Rabbids VR ride, which costs $5 for about a 3-minute experience, something that you can experience at literal Chuck E. Cheese's for a fraction of the cost. Speaking of which, one of the main things that they want to champion in their press releases, alongside having retro games for adults, is having cutting-edge, state-of-the-art games in their arcade. And that had me wondering, how many games do they have at Chuck's Arcade that you wouldn't be able to find at a normal Chuck E. Cheese? So I've done quite a bit of research, as well as cataloging every single game available at each location I visited, And here's the breakdown. I counted 56 different games across these 3 locations, with each Chuck's Arcade having an average of 30 games. Of those games in Chuck's Arcade, 45% of them could be found at a Chuck E. Cheese, and an additional 16% had a similar or copycat version in Chuck E. Cheese stores. That leaves just 39% of the games being exclusive to Chuck's Arcade, and 36% of that number is just the retro arcade cabinets that they threw in last minute. So with an average of 30 games in each Chuck's Arcade, only 12 of those games would not be found at a Chuck E. Cheese, or 7 if you exclude the 5 arcade cabinets at each location. And boy, is that not enough to justify a spin-off location. Not only do you get most of the same games at a Chuck E. Cheese, you also get a wider selection of games, food, and a prize counter. Oh yeah, did I mention that these places don't have a prize counter? And it makes me irrationally angry. In a lot of the promotion and branding for Chuck's Arcade, they have been showing off these photos of elaborate prize counters, and they look fantastic. Like, look at this Chuck E. Cheese leather jacket. I genuinely think that's awesome and would spend so many tokens trying to win it. From what I've been able to find, only 2 locations have an actual prize counter. At the other 8, you can redeem your non-existent tickets for pride, I guess. So you're telling me if I want a Chuck's Arcade t-shirt, I have to go all the way to Buford, Georgia? Welcome to Buford, Georgia. I'm kidding, I quite literally do not have the time or money to get to Georgia just to see another disappointing arcade, but this time with overpriced merchandise. I am so sorry. But not only do these locations not have a prize counter, they do not carry Chuck E. Cheese or Chuck's Arcade merchandise of any kind. In their other promotional photos, they like to show off their redemption games that have Chuck E. Cheese themed prizes. But across the 3 locations I visited, there was not a single piece of Chuck E. Cheese memorabilia to be found. Just your average Minecraft and other licensed plushies and a cheap claw machine. It's almost like they had these games installed and then just slapped some new branding on the outside of the store and didn't do anything else. Oh, and also one of the locations that has merchandise is now selling pizza. What is going on? So now it's Chuck's Arcade and Pizzeria? That is decidedly not what this concept was originally meant to be. You cannot keep changing your minds. Is it Fun Spot? Is it Chuck's? Is it an arcade? Is it a pizzeria? Make up your mind. At this point, by adding pizza, prizes, and an animatronic to an arcade, they have somehow reinvented Chuck E. Cheese. What was the point of any of this? Just add this to the pile of Chuck E. Cheese doing the bare minimum and then marketing it to the public as a brand new concept, something they have done many times before. I'm talking to you, Pasquale's Pizza and Wings. God, I feel like since we're talking about spin-off locations, I have to talk about Pasquale's Pizza and Wings. You see, back during the pandemic, a lot of people were using food ordering apps to support local businesses so they could still eat out while sitting safely in the comfort of their own home. So it makes sense that when you're scrolling through your DoorDash and you come across a hole in the wall like Pasquale's Pizza and Wings, you really want to support that local business. And so many people did. But imagine their surprise when their pizza and wings arrived in a Chuck E. Cheese box. And not just a Chuck E. Cheese box, but delivered from the exact location of Chuck E. Cheese. Congratulations, you've just wasted your stimulus check on a Chuck E. Cheese pizza. I specifically remember one person on Reddit finding this out the hard way and describing their experience. They said they texted their DoorDash driver afterwards saying, "Hey, I specifically ordered from Pasquale's Pizza and Wings. Where did you pick this up?" And he's like, "From the Chuck E. Cheese down the street." Corporate knew that absolutely nobody was going to be sitting at home during a deadly pandemic thinking, you know what I want my last meal to be? Chuck E. Cheese pizza. And so they just started a ghost kitchen in their own restaurant and just named it after another one of their 5 mascot characters. It's honestly so funny that I'm not even mad. So of course the internet blew up about this. Chuck E. Cheese got millions of dollars of free advertising in the form of news articles, and Pasquale's Pizza and Wings became a thriving business. I'm kidding. From what I could tell, sales were never that great, and they ended up shutting down the restaurant earlier this year, a restaurant that literally operated out of their own kitchen at no additional cost. They publicly released a statement upon the shutdown, and I absolutely love it. When Chuck E. Cheese launched our virtual brand, Pasquale's Pizza and Wings, in 2020, we intended to use it as a culinary testing ground for new menu items for guests outside our usual kids and families that regularly visit us at Chuck E. Cheese's fun centers. No, you absolutely did not. You just wanted to make some money during the pandemic. That's okay to admit. Businesses were struggling during that time. It's only natural you wanted to meet your bottom line, but don't talk to us like we're children. I mean, most of their audience is literal children, but I mean, never mind. So as of March 30th, 2025, we will no longer serve Pasquale's Pizza and Wings online or via platforms like DoorDash and Grubhub. But don't worry, most of your favorite Pasquale menu items will now be available at Chuck E. Cheese Fun Centers and via online ordering nationwide. Please visit chuckecheese.com to view menu order. Can we please pour one out for my boy Pasquale Pea Pie Plate? First, he's forcefully evicted from most restaurants, then the only thing keeping his namesake alive is Shuttered, and he's stuffed in the entrance of mall arcades across the United States. It's been a rough couple years for him. All right, so why did I just feel the need to go off on a tangent about a completely unrelated Chuck E. Cheese spinoff other than Chuck's Arcade? There's actually a reason for it. Chuck E. Cheese as a brand is dying, and they are doing literally anything within their power to make some money, other than the obvious thing of selling the animatronics to fans, but that's a rant for another video. They tried Pasquale's Pizza and Wings as a spinoff to make some money, they're now trying Chuck's Arcade as a spinoff to make some money, and what if I told you there's already yet another spinoff in the works? Welcome to Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World, just another part of the ever-growing Charles Entertainment Cheese Cinematic Universe, or the CECCU as I call it. Yes, after Chuck E. Cheese removed their animatronics and pizza for their new arcade concept, they are now removing the arcade. Bold move. As of the time of writing this, Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World is still in early development, with them hoping to launch later this year, but the grand plan is to put smaller stores in malls across the country, just like Chuck's Arcade, but this time featuring elements of their adventure zones, which are featured in some Chuck E. Cheese restaurants these days. These adventure zones include obstacle courses and trampoline zones, and oh boy, how the mighty have fallen. Truly, at this point, they are slapping their name on quite literally anything to hopefully right this sinking ship. And only time will tell how the public reacts to Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World should it ever open. But hey, at least we have the new and improved Chuck's Arcade, and business is probably doing better, right? I mean, it's not like the company is at risk of going into bankruptcy for like the 500th time. Right? Right? Well, unfortunately, despite filing for bankruptcy twice over their nearly 50-year existence, Chuck E. Cheese is now facing the prospect of yet another and possibly final bankruptcy declaration. As of July 2025, Chuck E. Cheese Entertainment is currently trying to raise $600 million from investors to cover upcoming debt payments. And spoiler alert, they're not having any luck. They have been losing hundreds of millions of dollars for the past 5 years, and investors do not want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So what on earth happens when May 2026 comes around and Chuck E. Cheese is finally forced to pay off that $600 million debt? It's all speculation at this point, but I would say that this beloved pizza chain is not long for this world. As I'm writing this script and filming this video, it just seems like things are getting more and more dire each day. And one of the biggest discussions happening online right now is revolving around CEC Entertainment's Chief Marketing Officer, Mark Kupferman. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. You see, Mark has a reputation of getting a bit hostile with the Chuck E. Cheese fan base online, a fan base that is mostly made up of literal children, so quite a battle to pick, Mark. There was an incident where a specific animatronic stage at a Chuck E. Cheese location was going to be saved, but ultimately wasn't. And here are some excerpts of his interactions with the community upon that announcement. Sometimes I think some of you forget that I do not have to be here. You won't find an executive at Dave & Buster's, Disney, or Topgolf asking for feedback or answering questions on their dedicated forums. You guys have a direct line of communication to the top of the company you claim to care so much about, and it sometimes amazes me how much some of you take that access for granted. And who decides what is offensive to me? Me. And I don't care if you think my standard is reasonable or not. You post any picture of me, you can count on me blocking you, period. Oh no, I showed a publicly available photograph just seconds ago. Did I just get blocked? For those of you who are skeptical, I ask you to remember one thing. We didn't have to do any of this. We did not need to try to save this stage in any way, shape, or form. We had already announced we were done saving stages. I could have left this alone, not done anything, and nobody would have been the wiser. My dude, just log off. And this is all well and good. I don't have any problem with most of these comments. Sure, they're a little unprofessional, but I have seen some of the vitriol that this fan base can produce, and whoo boy! But where I do draw the line with Mark is where he was publicly discussing the financial state of Chuck E. Cheese as a brand. In messages with another Reddit user, Kupferman brushed off the $600 million in debt and said that it's something that every brand has. Without getting into details that I shouldn't, a good idea, you don't want to get in trouble. Check out the debt that Dave & Buster's has, over $3 billion, or Bolero, $2.4 billion, or Six Flags, $4.9 billion. Most big companies have debt like that. The idea is that they believe they can earn more profit by taking out loans and using the money to remodel or build or open stores than what the debt will cost. I'm not a finance guy. Yeah, you don't say. I'm not a finance guy, so I can't say whether those companies have too much or too little. Regarding the refinance, that's something that every company eventually deals with. I am sure it will all be resolved. And then he finishes up in another Reddit comment. Rest assured, Chuck E. Cheese's future is bright. Despite the groundless speculation I've seen online from some people without access to the facts, families are loving our new remodel, and the company is thriving. Are we looking at the same company here? I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude, but come on, man. But you know what? I am willing to let bygones be bygones right here, right now, and agree with Mark that I too think the future of Chuck E. Cheese is bright. Bright like the light from an inferno as their entire pizza empire burns to the ground. Now, I have reason to believe that CEC Entertainment is not doing as well financially as Mark may be leading on to be, or at least that they are skimping out on the smallest of expenses. And how do I know that? Remember the URL for Chuck's Arcade, chucksarcade.fun? So as it turns out, chucksarcade.com is owned by a man named Chuck Hess, who has owned that domain since 2007. This website is dedicated to documenting Chuck's video game collection, as well as tracking the restoration progress of his old pinball machines and arcade cabinets. It's a really neat little site, and I'm always a huge fan of when people share their hobbies or niche interests with the world, something I'm obviously a huge proponent of on this channel. But I was really curious about the backstory to this URL, and if he himself had heard of Chuck's Arcade ever since it launched. So I sent him an email. And Chuck Hess, the original Chuck, very graciously responded, and here's what he had to say. Hey Gavin, that's an interesting story. A few months ago, I received an anonymous offer of $1,000 for chucksarcade.com. Since I've owned the site for about 20 years, $1,000 was not enough to make me want to sell it. I countered with $10,000 and was willing to let it go for that. The broker said my offer was refused. A few months later, I learned it was the adult Chuck E. Cheese that wanted the name. I found it funny that they weren't willing to pay $10,000 for it. I do want to thank them, though, for the very substantial increase in traffic since it was announced. I just retired last year and am enjoying my retirement refurbishing and restoring my games. I'm to around 50 games and have completed substantial restores on roughly a third of them. Here's a link to a video of my games I shot last year. So first of all, I want to thank Mr. Hess for taking the time to respond, and also I want to encourage everyone to go check out his website and his YouTube channel, both of which I will be linking in the description below. But secondly, $1,000? That's literally all a giant corporation was willing to pay a man for his 20-year-old domain. According to Mark, this company's just thriving and rolling in the dough, but they only offered him $1,000? You would think if you believed so much in this concept and that it's going to turn your business around, you'd at least shell out the minimum of $10,000 for the .com URL. Honestly, I think $10,000 is still undervalued for a corporation like Chuck E. Cheese, but I guess to them, it wasn't worth it, so they just went with the cheaper .fun URL. But then, like Chuck Hess said, people are still going to the .com URL because logically, you would think Chuck E. Cheese would have enough money to buy the .com URL. Heck, that's how I found this site in the first place, by accident. But hey, Chuck E. Cheese, you enjoy your .fun URL, while me and all my friends are gonna go hang out at chucksarcade.com. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want Chuck E. Cheese to go out of business. It was a huge part of my childhood, a huge part of my life, and has shaped a lot of the content that you find here on this channel. But rapidly creating all these spit-off locations in hopes of saturating the market just isn't gonna pay off. But hey, I'm not a finance guy either, Mark. But you know what? I think I have come up with a solution that will surely save Chuck E. Cheese and their legacy. Give me all the animatronics. Mark, I know you're watching this. You watch all criticism online. Just give me the animatronics. Corporate doesn't want them. You don't want... They've only brought you bullying and vitriol from the community online. I will take on all that bullying for you because I am so kind-hearted. But hey, I can't force you to do any of that. I am sure you would just as happily destroy them like you have done with so many other shows. But truly, I wish Mark had just listened to his own words when thinking if he should create the NT spin-off for Chuck E. Cheese and just say, we didn't have to do any of this. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Why, yes, I did spend a lot of money driving around the country visiting these horrible arcades. You want to know how you can help? Becoming a member of this channel. Memberships start at 99 cents a month, and you can get bonus videos and access to my Discord and all that fun stuff. Please help. Sincerely, thank you guys so much for watching this video and making all these videos possible. And until next time, be kind to one another, stay safe. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.